Hey, welcome to another edition of the Outsider Gaming Interview. My name is AJ Churchill. Wall Street Raider began in 1986 as a financial simulation game made by a single developer and quietly has become a cult classic. Part game, part economics and finance lesson, and a ruthless portrait of capitalism itself. For nearly 40 years, its creator, Michael Jenkins, refined and expanded it line of code by line of code from DOS all the way to modern Windows, and now a new chapter in the game's history is beginning. Developer Ben Ward is rebuilding the game for a new generation, preserving its complexity while giving it a modern interface and a second life on Steam. Ben, Michael, thank you both so much for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks, AJ.
Great to be here. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Michael, can you take me back to the first night that you ever started writing code for Wall Street Raider back in 1986? What did that moment look like? Where were you? What were you thinking?
I can't recall what that was. What went before it, though, was years and years, literally, starting at, I think, about 1967, when I was in law school at Harvard. I started trying to come up with a board game with corporations, sort of like Monopoly. And after a while, I realized this just wasn't going to be feasible unless someday there was such things as personal computers and I could code it. So I waited and I filled up notebooks with ideas for for years until I guess about 1983 or 84 when I finally got my hands on a K-Pro, which was one of the early personal computers, which had a screen of about 5 inches, I think. And but it worked, and I got that and was using it in my business for a while, but had no idea how to write code until finally one day I took out uh, Bill Gates's little short book that came with it on how to write things in Microsoft Basic, and I wrote a little short program that said hello. And that was all. But as soon as I did that, I realized, oh, this isn't that complicated. So I basically spent that whole night. I remember staying up till like 5 in the morning, writing all kinds of crazy stuff, like fake conversations that I could have when somebody would come to my house and have them sit down at the computer and already had stuff about them in it. And it was just a hoot. So somewhere after that, about a year later, I realized all along that trying to create something like Wall Street Raider was going to be a real major challenge. So it took me about a year, and I just kind of inched into it. So there's no like real start date that I can remember, but it was a long, gradual process. And once I got started on it, then I was finding while I'd be at work, I was practicing on my own at that time. And I wasn't doing very much work or getting out and drumming up business. I was sitting in my office programming, trying to create this game. Finally, my books that I published started selling, so that kind of bailed me out. But that's how it started, sort of not in a storm, but more like a slow drizzle, I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had no idea that the inception of this game was originally, you originally wanted it to be a board game, which I can imagine it would probably be the most complex board game with a rule
Yeah.
book the size of, 400 pages.
That's kind of how it was. I had little tiny stock certificates about this big, for each of the companies. I actually had a big board I'd created, and I would sit there with a calculator for hours when I was playing with somebody, and finally realized, nobody's going to have the patience to do this.
And
So,
and at that time, did you have the I guess the expertise in sort of corporate accounting and how all the mechanics of this game were going to work in your head, or is it something that was iterative, like you would think of a problem and then research how to solve that particular problem?
yeah, well, it was kind of like one fed the other. I mean, during the years leading up to actually trying to write code for the game, I was going through all of the thought processes. What would I have to do to make a merger work? What are all the different things, who are all the different concerned parties, how would each have to be dealt with. Same thing for liquidations and all. And fortunately, I had really good tax classes at Harvard. And when I came out, initially I worked as an economist for a couple of years with a really good consulting firm that taught me all about present values and it actually taught me a lot of finance just on the fly. And then I went to work for a big CPA firm, and the training there in taxes and really high-end corporate transactions and all was just, literally the best training in the world. It was better than anything I got at Harvard data. So I had that going for me. But the whole process of developing the ideas for the game also really gave me a huge edge when I practiced with the big law firm and with the big accounting firm, because I just kind of understood intuitively how all this was supposed to work and didn't have to learn it from the ground up like the other guys coming out of law school. So it just kind of fed on itself. And the more I learned, the more I was able to put into the game. So I eventually had to,
Like
finally had the spin-offs and etc.
if you were able to create this game with all these rules, you have to understand those concepts down pat. And so I can see how that would translate into your real corporate job at the time.
Having played the game a lot as you have, you probably noticed I have this concept in there, like where one company controls 80% of another, that they do this consolidated tax accounting, and all of that is straight out of the Internal Revenue Code tax regulations, which are actually some of the most complicated parts of all of the tax law. But
Man.
unfortunately, I was taught that by the guy who actually wrote the regulations, who was one of the trainers when I was at the CPA firm. So
Wow.
I just decided, hey, I'll just build that into the game too and make this thing as realistic as I possibly could.
Oh, that's incredible. I have so many questions, but I want to get Ben in here. Ben, you are recreating the game for a modern graphical user interface. You're taking this game that is so dense, that is so rich and so complex in the simulation that it runs, and you are translating it into something that is going to run better on modern computers. And broaden the appeal of the game to the whole user base of Steam players that are interested in tycoon and management games. So I want to know what was it about this game in particular to you, this piece of software that used to be just a command line interface piece of software that grabbed you so completely that you felt that you had to bring this back. Was there any like specific moments where you're like, I just can't let this game die? What was your experience playing the game, or where did that arise?
I wouldn't say that Wall Street Raider was dead. I mean, people were still buying it. Maybe not as much in the past, but people were still buying it and playing it. And, online communities had always struggled to kind of stay alive around the game, but people always were still playing the game. And, but yeah, what it did it for me is I was kind of like Michael, where I always had this idea of a stock market game. I didn't think of a board game, but because I grew up in the personal computing era, but I always thought of a video game. I was like, why hasn't anyone made a stock market game? I mean, there had been some, but they kind of sucked. So I was like, I'm gonna make one because at least I may not have the financial knowledge, but I can Google it. I could try and figure it out. But I realized it was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. Or I would do it, but it kinda looked like the other games. I was like, "Okay, numbers go up, numbers go down," and, but there's not this, doesn't have, like, a soul, I guess I could say. It doesn't have, like, a soul or, doesn't feel real. And so but I had thought about it for a long time. I'd even thought about covering it up with, like, a sci-fi thing. I had this idea called Total Galactic Index, which was, like, an index fund, but you, have companies on different planets, and, that's kinda like the background of investing in different planets or companies transporting things from different galaxy or whatever solar systems. So I was like, okay, well, if I don't know corporate finance, I'll just make it up. I'll do sci-fi finance or space finance. But I was, that I never really got the time to sit down and really flesh it out. But then I was like, I think I need some inspiration. I need to really find a game or a simulator that I can, I guess, kind of copy some stuff from to try and get the realism into it. And I found Wall Street Raider was like the only one. It was the only one that I was like, this is interesting. And of course, I didn't care that the interface was Windows 32 or anything. I was just looking at the people everywhere I looked on Reddit and everything. People were like, "This is the best stock market game that's ever been invented." Blah blah blah. And then that's when I found your Reddit post saying that's really what kind of did it for me. Where I was like, "There's this guy who's been working on it for 40 years, and like it's kind of this niche thing." And he reached out to me, and I kind of was turned on by how detailed his response was. Like, this was a guy who was willing to give people his time and give a legitimate response and no expectation of anything. Just seemed like a nice, good guy, decent guy. I was like, okay, well then it was when I had my first kid, and I was trying to find ways to stay awake and stay focused, and so I was playing Wall Street Raider, and I was terrible at the game, terrible. And so I thought, well, just like I learned coding, I'll buy the manual. I'll read the whole manual and then I'll be good at it. And then I read the whole manual and I was still terrible at the game. And that's when I thought, I was like, this game has some amazing depth to it, that even it's like chess, even knowing all the rules, even memorizing all the opening moves and the lines, you still need to practice. And that kind of made me think of, I got this idea in my head, this slogan called, it's a corporate finance roguelike, is which I'm sure Michael doesn't know I'm talking about because it's gamer nerd terminology here. But basically it's a game that's highly replayable and you get a different experience every time. And even if you know all the rules and all the mechanics, you still have to practice to get good at it. And I was like, this is gold. It's pure gold. It's like, even though I suck, I'm enjoying myself. It's like Dwarf Fortress. It's like losing is one of the most fun parts of the game because every time you lose, it's because something you didn't know was in the game happened and you learned something. So to answer your question, it's like, I just knew. I was like, if so I had this idea of a Bloomberg terminal. I was like, if this had a Bloomberg terminal, I mean, the entire game is done. It's just a user interface. It's like, I'm sure the user interface is probably turns people off, or you have to be a certain kind of person to not care about it. But the general public of gamers, they may love the mechanics and the simulation, but the user experience needs to be modernized. And that I couldn't get out of my head. So that's why I started spamming Michael to let me have a crack at it. I mean, we talked back and forth and back and forth. And the funniest thing is, this is the second time I was thinking about this. This is the second time I've had an audio call with Michael, like a live audio call. And it's the first time I've been on a video call with him. So this guy entrusted me with 40 years of his opus magnum, all based on email and us sharing information and me proving to him through coding and taking videos of what I was doing that I was the right guy for the job. And that's just crazy. It's just, but yeah, I mean, I just knew that this was gonna, if I could get the user interface to be modernized, I knew it was gonna blow up. It still hasn't really blown up yet because it's not done, but I think it will.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to just say it's not out yet. I've been able to play it because it's currently undergoing an open beta, right? If I'm not wrong, and so you reached out to Michael about making this game. And Michael, I know from a previous interview with Ben, which by the way, if you're listening and watching this, and you haven't seen our previous interview, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of really awesome nuggets of wisdom and stories from Ben in there about making this game happen. But Michael, I know that you received that email and you were probably just extraordinarily skeptical when Ben reached out. It wasn't your first rodeo dealing with people who like the game and had a vision for modernizing it. And you've said that you've heard in the past from banks, studios, even Disney developers who wanted to modernize the game, but it just didn't work out. So what was it, Michael, that made Ben stand out to you as different?
Well, at first he didn't. I figured he was just another guy who was going to take a shot at it, and that would be the end of it. And I think I may have told him, don't spend a lot of money on this, because some people spent, several $100,000 on programmers trying to get it to work, and they couldn't. So I just kind of forgot about it about a year until he came back to me and finally he said, "Hey, I figured out how to make this thing work." And that was really exciting, because I had basically given it up for dead. Figured, okay, it's so obsolete looking. I know, and it's just going to kind of fade into history here, because no one's going to ever be able to make this thing work like it's supposed to and look like it should. And once Ben said he had cracked that nut open, it's like, okay, let's go for it, man. So
Amazing.
yeah, so
And
we
you've
came up with a contract quickly.
nice. And you mentioned that a lot of this code like came to you in sort of fits of like visions at 3 a.m. where you've been working all, as I've heard developers sometimes say that, they'll step away from the project, or they'll be working, and all of a sudden they figure out in their minds how they're supposed to do this.
Yes, some of the really most complex corporate transaction stuff, I remember just having one night, one of those nights where I went till 3 a.m. or so, because it all kind of fit together. And I felt like if I go to bed and I get up in the morning, I won't remember how to do this. So I just stayed up until I wrote that code. And when I look at that code today, I still don't really quite understand it, but I don't want to mess with it, because I tested it and tested it for years, and I know it works right every time. But it was that complex, just trying to wrap my mind around it. So yeah, that's I guess that's what you call one of those eureka moments, when there's something you've been kind of hammering away at finally opens up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have something to add to that, which is that while I was trying to do this over the course of a year, I was reading the one of the biggest challenges was just learning the language, which is funny because it's one of the simplest languages there is. But I think it was me getting in my own way of my classical or my professional software development training of like object oriented code and classes and properties and all these things. And Wall Street Raider is actually very simple. It's just that everything has an ID and all the information is in lists. And if you want to know how much cash something has, you just go to the list of cash values and go to that ID. And but for some reason, getting my mind around reading the syntax of the code, not being familiar with BASIC, the PowerBASIC. So at first I got the PowerBASIC manual, which was like 2,000 pages.
right.
And then of course I'm having
Wow.
to reread the Wall Street Raider manual, which is 300 pages. I'm
Boy,
over the course of the year, I probably spent 90% of the time reading. I was just reading and I wasn't really coding at all. And I was like, there's some golden nugget. And I was reading the PowerBasic forums too, all their stuff. And I'm like trying to figure out how is this going to work? And like you're saying, the eureka moment was, well, it was kind of two different things. One was I started thinking about, had this feeling of, and I've had this feeling probably a dozen times since working on this project, which is I'm just going to be like everybody else. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I don't know how to solve this. And but I kept thinking, I kept attacking the problem, and I kept thinking, what is the thing that all these other people, studios tried to do that is the reason why they failed? And I realized it's because they keep trying to rewrite the code. They keep trying to rewrite the
Okay.
PowerBASIC to like C++ or some other language, and it doesn't work. And so I really started to look into like, how do professional companies like modernize old systems and things? And I realized that they don't. They just they just keep finding creative, innovative ways to keep the code the way it is and run it on modern systems. And I thought, that's what I need to do. I need to touch as little of the old code as possible, and I just need to replace the user interface and get that in. And that's when I started really making breakthroughs. And that's when I figured out, I was like, oh, it's just a Windows program, and it's just like C++ where you have these dynamically linked libraries or DLLs. I was like, I could just create a DLL and import it into PowerBasic, and it works just like C++. And then I can write all the new user interface code in C++. And I tried it one day and it worked. And that's when I sent Michael, I got a little thing going with just a button and like some text. And I sent it to him like, this isn't anything, but like, this is it. Like now I can use my skills to layer on top of the old engine. But yeah, that I don't know if it was like, I don't know when the eureka moment happened, but I mean that was one of the biggest challenges of, if I couldn't solve that, then it like we wouldn't be talking right now.
So is it correct in saying that there's a lot in the source code that you don't understand and you don't even have to understand because Michael did that work? Maybe even Michael doesn't totally understand how it's working at this point. But it's not important because your job is sort of the translator. You're like the Rosetta Stone of getting his, hieroglyphics into, a modern day graphical user interface.
No, I don't. I don't. Michael's gonna be working on it for 40 years. And I think I sent Michael something. I call it the Michael Jenkins hypothesis or something, which is that they're all different versions of Michael Jenkins at different points in time working on the game. And it's like all different versions of himself at different years of his life. And their interpretation of how Wall Street Raider works and how it should work, all of that's combined to where that's where it seems like there's a market going on, but it's just clones of Michael at different points of his life, all like AIs, because he is the AI. He built the AI, but not just him, all different versions of him at different stages of his life and understandings of the stock market. So yeah, I don't think Michael probably fully understands. I'm sure if he looked at a piece of code, he'd be like, oh, I know how this works. I know what that's supposed to be, but I don't. And me personally, yeah, I, I've probably I've read the whole code, but like I haven't memorized it. So it's really not important. My job is to, I see a button and I go, where is the code that when you click that button, it calls this function? And I make the new code call that function. That's all I do. And it still took me 2 years to figure it out because it's just such a complex and deep game and the old language. But yeah, like I still suck at the game. I'm still terrible. And I've read all the code. I've seen the source code of the game and I still can't beat it. So to me, it's like, it's going to be infinite hours of fun for the rest of my life if I ever get to actually sit down and play it. I probably haven't really sat down and played it like a legit game in probably uh, a year or two. So
You should play it. It's really fun. I just if I come across as a little woozy, it's because I was playing it for about 5 hours before we
I
started
did sit
talking.
down and play it. So what happened was, as I sent it to Michael, the first version, which was really not very good, but it worked. And I said, I'm going to stream it on Discord. So I opened up Discord and like immediately like 30 people showed up to just watch me. And I went in, I did kind of the opening line, my opening um, cheat, which is I find a company that's being sued, and then I buy a bunch of calls on the people that are going to be awarded the lawsuit. And I just sat down for like 20 minutes and played it, and made like 10 or 20 billion or something. And then I kind of just sat back and I was like, oh my God, it works. It's fun.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome.
this may actually become something after
Yeah.
about 2 years of working on it.
Oh, that's
One
incredible.
thing, what one thing I'm really encouraged by, although we still got a way to work to finish working out all of the details of the
Yeah.
GUI. But what I've seen so far from Ben's new version is that the underlying engine that's kind of in motion all the time and doing all the calculations for all of the 1,000+ companies seems to be working flawlessly. So it looks like you've been able to just leave that alone and just tap into it where needed. So that's really encouraging to see.
Yeah, and it's like, it's even to the point now where it's like, if Michael wants to improve it. See, that's the biggest thing I wanted, is Michael is like, once you change this to C++, I'm not going to be able to help anymore. And now that it's still PowerBASIC, he can go in there with the old original version and say, hey, I just improved this function. Here's the new function. And I can
Exactly.
just drop it in. And that's really cool that he can still feels the agency to be able to help and improve it. And he just doesn't have to take a back seat. He has full control and autonomy over the engine if he wants to improve something. Um, and there's and it's funny because I really haven't touched it all, and the little pieces that have touched have caused bugs that people have had to find, tell me about, and I have to go fix it. Little things like the old version is driven by menus and things, whereas like I have, if you have calls, I have a report of all the calls you have and a sell button or a cover button or whatever. And so I had to tweak the code a little bit because there's no function that lets you sell, let's say, a specific call contract. So I would have to program that in. And of course, it didn't work the first time. People had to tell me, and I had to go fix it. And I can only imagine if I rewrote the entire engine, that there's no way it would work.
No.
There's no way in hell that it would work. It would just be upending 40 years of stable code and replacing it with totally unstable code.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, and I'm looking forward to the tariffs update, Michael. Whenever you can drop the the tariffs update. So, Michael, I have a question for you. I hold this game in kind of the pantheon of some of the greatest systems based simulation games ever made. I'm talking Football Manager, RimWorld, Dwarf Fortress, the kind of game where it's all dependent, it's all emergent, as in the world responds to your actions, but the world is also its own thing, and every company's doing its own thing, and no one game is going to be the same because the systems that you've implemented are so deep. And I think that's the hardest kind of game to create from my limited understanding of game development, because it's a world that just works, right? I feel like it's so balanced that you never find yourself veering into something that seems like it's not possible. It all feels like it is plausible when the simulation is running in your game. And it's been called, the most realistic financial simulator ever made. But Wall Street Raider also has this kind of moral component to it, kind of like a moral test. It's a game where being greedy is a totally viable strategy. In fact, perhaps not unfortunately like real life, not unlike real life. Do you see the game that you created as satire? Is it realism, or is it somewhere in between satire and realism?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of a mixture of all of the above. I mean, I've enjoyed one of the things that's just had me up many nights cackling as I came up with a funny idea was all of the text I built in, all of these various scenarios, and just trying to build in real graveyard humor. But realism, and so much of it was just taken from headlines. You know, when I would see the latest scandal on Wall Street or in the business world, and okay, how can I create a scenario for that? Uh, so mostly it was just to make it interesting and fun, but also give people a sense of you know, the fact that so much of what you read, particularly with regard to investments, is just BS, and stocks being touted for various reasons, which are not always entirely ethical. So a lot of cases, for example, in some of the ethical scenarios I have, you'll do something and there will be a result, and then you will see a headline that's sort of like you would see in the real world, except you know that the headline is really garbage because that's not what really was happening. That you were really running a con. So I gotten a lot of fun out of doing that. But it also sort of is a teaching that I actually have a karma variable in it. And every time you do something that's one of the unethical things, your karma count goes up. And what that means is the next time you do it, that directly figures into the odds that you're going to get slammed. So, you know, you may get away with it a couple of times, but if you just keep doing it, your karma number is going to get so high that you're not going to be able to cheat anymore. Next time you cheat, you're going to get busted one way or another. So it is kind of a moral lesson built into it. And I'm sure some players are shocked when they do cross the line on one of these scenarios. They, oh, well, that was great. That got my stock up. And so the next time one of them comes up like that, another chance, hey, I'm going to do that again. And maybe they get away with it 3 or 4 times, and then whack the next time. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it teaches a little bit about morality and about sort of providing a little bit of realism about the actual morality or lack thereof on Wall Street.
And how do you feel as the game's original creator, seeing players kind of turn your simulation into a way of understanding real markets? There's stories of people who have even launched, full-fledged finance
Yeah.
careers because of it.
Yeah, that has really been the most satisfying part of it. I mean, for years, I just thought of this as a game. It's like sort of my personal obsession and addiction because I played it myself. You know, if I didn't have anything else to do a lot of nights, I would sit down and play it, and we'd see something wrong or something I could improve on. But it was just fun playing it. And it seemed like it started about 10 years ago. I started getting emails from people all over the world saying, you know, I've been playing your game since I was 13 years old and living in a third world country here in the Philippines or wherever. Couldn't even afford to buy the full version, so I played the 2-year version for years and years. And it taught me so much that now I'm working for Morgan Stanley as a floor trader in Shanghai or things like that. And after a while, I just started getting more and more and more of these. And that has really been satisfying. People saying, you know, your game has changed my life. And I go, wow, where did that come from? I mean, I have no idea. But yeah, well, I put a lot of love into this thing. And I think it's paid off for a lot of people.
And that's one of the many reasons why I wanted to increase the impact because of on on an individual, the impact that playing the game can have on their life, their
Absolutely.
career, their understanding of finance, everything. Where it's like, okay, it's a game, but everything in it is pretty much real. Taxes, mergers. It just even if it's just them putting. Sometimes it's just putting themselves in the mindset of, oh, if I can do this in a game, maybe I can do it in real life. Maybe I'm not so stupid after all, or whatever. For me, it's like, for me, the game does make me feel stupid. But for a lot of people, like let's say Trimbark Tree, he goes, "Wow, I'm a stonemason, but if somebody would pick me up, maybe I could go and trade and and do things. And if you're a lot younger, then maybe you just go into school, go to school. A lot of people don't even know what they want to do when they go to college. But I feel like that's what this game does is it goes, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I want to do. I want to do this. And then they just go and do that. And if I can blow it up and 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 thousands of people play it, it really was never about the money. I mean, obviously the money is nice, but you know, Steam's taking a cut. Michael and I are splitting it. And it's like, at the end of the day, I could have been the amount of time and effort and brain power I've used to work on this. I could have made a much more money doing anything else.
No
This
doubt.
is purely a labor of love of wanting to see this thing continue and going, man, see what this did for people in 40 years. What if it went on for another 40 years and the whole world knew about it? You know, how many lives would it impact or whatever? So
And as I mentioned, I've been playing this game today on the open beta playtest. As of right now, it's open. So if you're listening and you want to get your hands on this and start sending bug reports, download it, join the Discord. It's a very active community. But Ben, now that the game is available for playtesting, what kind of feedback are you receiving from players? What's the response been?
it's kind of a mix. It's kind of a mix. I mean, a lot of bugs, but mostly with my code. There's no bugs really in the old code. So there's a lot of bugs. A lot of the older players, they're very used to the old version. So it's funny because they'll be like, your version's slow. Your version's slower than the old, which I fixed. I fixed that. I don't know if it's as blazing fast as the old one, but you also have to consider like my version is showing a lot more on the screen than the old version. So it may be slightly slower because it's generating, whereas you would click a button and show a report. Okay, that time it takes for that window to pop up, you're now seeing that baked in real time as you're running the game. And I just, like I'm about to release a performance update, which I found a couple issues where it's gonna really speed it up. You're gonna really see a difference, and hopefully, it's gonna it's gonna make it a lot smoother. But I did things where it's like, okay, if you're looking at a report, before I was doing a lot of. Oh, you still there, AJ?
Oh, I think we lost you. I'm not sure if we have to do anything or not, but maybe he just has to log in once he gets power
Maybe you'll
back.
come back. Maybe you'll come back.
Wait and see.
There we go.
Hey, sorry about that. It was, for the listeners, I'm in Uzbekistan, and so my internet is not amazing right now. But Ben, you were saying if users are looking at a report, and then I lost you.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the weeds, but basically there's a lot of optimization I've been doing in terms of, okay, I've been doing a lot of lazy stuff where, okay, if you're looking at a company, I was just loading all the reports for that company and I didn't realize how laggy that was making it. Um, so I just made it to where whatever report you're looking at, it just loads that report. So
That's one of the real nice innovations built that Ben has put into it. Before, all of my things like earnings reports or balance sheets and all, when those came up, they were static. So if all that information got updated while you're watching it, what you're looking at on the screen was already out of date while the ticker's running and everything else is changing. But Ben has got it updating live constantly.
you just got to iterate on it. You just got to keep improving it. And, that's basically what you were asking. How is the simulation so stable? It's so balanced. And, as someone who's tried to make simulation games, it's not easy. And I think Michael has solved it simply through time, simply through continuously playing it, finding a little thing and going, oh, I can probably fix that, and layering balancing code on top of it to the point where it's just balanced. And I think a lot of games they try and do a lot in a short amount of time, and Michael's really taken his time to just do it right. And but feedback from the community is they have a lot of complaints in terms of bugs and lags and different things like that, but they're still playing it. I see on Steam statistics, I'm like, there's a lot of people who just open it. I think it's just, people open it, they look at it and they go, oh, this game's not for me, and close it. But you'll see a little graph of increasing, and then some people was like 30 hours, 50 hours already. And you're like, that's the people I want to hear feedback from. And that's people like Trim Bark Tree or Maller or these people on the Discord who I've kind of brought them together. And I'm like, you guys are like my core people. I want to hear feedback from everybody. There's a bug report channel, there's a suggestions channel, and I look at them all when I'm reviewing, okay, the next week or two sprint of things I'm going to work on. I pick from those the highest impact things that I'm going to try and fix or add to the UI. But I really pay attention to the older players because I'm like, these are the people that it really impacted. And I think if I can make them happy, and then I can make everybody happy. And I think it's really been working out. One thing I have noticed is that with new players, um, it's been it's a hard learning curve. I mean, I think, before you would have to buy the manual, which I mean was like an extra $7 or something. But I've been talking to Michael for a long time about it, and now basically the Steam version is going to be selling for what you would have paid for the game and the manual. And but instead of just packaging the manual with the game, I've created. There's nothing in it right now because I haven't had time to um, populate it. But I've created a wiki. I've created wallstreetraiderwiki.com, and over time, hopefully that will get all the knowledge and strategy from not just the manual, but veteran players putting things in there. And I think all kinds of complex games like Dwarf Fortress or Minecraft or RimWorld or any of these games, Football Manager, they all have a wiki. There's no real tutorial in the game. I mean, they may have like a basic tutorial, but I don't even know if I have time to build that into Wall Street Raider or what it would look like. So I decided kind of a cop out was going to be, I'm just going to make a wiki. If they want to know what goodwill is, they can search it on the wiki and read about it. So, and I think that's kind of how I use the manual, just as a reference. I think that's how the manual was designed, as a reference document. It wasn't really designed to read cover to cover, although I feel like a lot of people do that because it's very interesting read. But yeah, so that's kind of feedback that I've been getting from people. But overall, I think it's been positive.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it's not a game for everyone. This is a game that looks like a Bloomberg terminal. Like there's a natural group of people that are just never going to be interested in this kind of game. But for those who, like numbers go up type games and want to imagine themselves as financiers, business leaders, multi-billionaires, rags to riches stories, for them, I think they're really going to enjoy it, and it's addictive. I played it for 5 or 6 hours today. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I'll just add to that as when I did the playtest, I was originally going to give it out to individual people as like, you sign up and I'll give you a playtest key. And I forced them all to fill out essentially a marketing survey, which asks them all kinds of questions about what kind of games do they like and how old they are and different things like that, and what their interests are, favorite games, or what they like about Wall Street Raider or the old version. And what I've noticed is that you would be surprised, and this is why I think more people would be interested in this game than you think. People that have played this game for a long time, they play all kinds of games. There's no one particular type of genre or um, even like, type of game that they play. They play MOBAs, they play RPG, they play roguelikes, they play war games, tycoon games, obviously, but all kinds of shooting games. They play everything. And all these people, something about Wall Street Raider taps into something in them that they don't get from any other game. So I think it is undetermined of how many people actually would be interested in Wall Street Raider. So, and I think we'll only know that until everybody knows about it, which is what my second phase of my Wall Street Raider career is going to be focused on. The first one is getting it to early access and stable, and then the second one is just going to be telling everybody about it.
Yeah.
which is going to be a big change. My my whole approach over the years has been that I just kind of put it out there and hope that people find it. I mean, I'm like the world's worst marketing person. Just no
Yeah.
friggin' clue about how to do it. And I even tried it running ads a couple of times and got zero response. I was like, okay, I guess it's not a real wide interest type of thing. But yeah, I love the fact that Ben's going about this in a organized fashion and getting feedback. I always got feedback over the years too, but it was just random. People would say, "Hey, this, why did my bank suddenly just go broke for no reason?" Oh,
Yeah.
I think you found a bug there. So, uh,
Yeah, I think well, see, everybody's playing Wall Street Raider, but I feel like the most fun for me is I'm playing a different game in real life, which is as a software engineer, probably a little bit on the spectrum, ADHD. Like, I didn't know anything really. I mean, I like to say because I've always worked in management in business that I know something about business or sales or marketing, whatever, but I really didn't. And working on Wall Street Raider kind of taught me that. But over the past couple of years, it's the game I'm playing. I've learned so much about marketing and product market fit and different things that things where just the fact that what they teach you about marketing and sales and whatnot is it's really not that complicated. It doesn't work that way. It's very simple. And one of the things that turned me on with Wall Street Raider is the fact that Michael really didn't do any marketing, and thousands of people still played it and had an impact on them. And I was like, that's kind of me, I guess, almost as an investor of my time going, if I can invest my time and solve that part of it, then it really could change the value of it and grow the number of sales or the people playing it. So some way that I could impact its success in a sort of surgical way. But yeah, it's taught me so much about marketing. Marketing is really simple. I think, and I talked to a marketing guy, one of my friends who built and sold a marketing agency, and he said it's really simple. It's like any kind of marketing works with a great product. Um, any kind of marketing doesn't work with a terrible product. So no amount of marketing is going to sell. There are a lot of terrible products that do sell based on marketing, but the general rule of thumb is just going off of, well, first you need to focus on the product. Michael focused on the product for 40 years. It's perfect. So now we just need to focus on the marketing aspect. And really the UI is part of the marketing. The UI is appeal. It's the sexiness of it. So I'm really just all marketing. I'm a programmer, but I'm also really just focusing on the marketing aspect.
Yeah.
yeah, I think people are kind of getting excited about it too. I'm also getting feedback from people about the new version, almost all of it, but very positive. In fact, I got one a couple of days ago from a longtime user. He said, "Man, I just love this new interface that you guys are coming out with." He said, "I love the old game, but let's face it, it was really ugly." Said it looked like it was out of the dark ages,
Yeah.
which it was.
So that I mean that brings me over to the next point, Michael, which is do you see yourself once the graphical user interface is out, the new one, the new game is, for sale on Steam, do you see yourself going back in there and diving in and adding new features, or is this your legacy is set and you're gonna just watch this rebirth?
Uh, I I'm probably going to be making a few tweaks from time to time because it's kind of that I can't quite take my hands off it. But the last version that I had come out with, basically, I had put just about every category of like financial instruments that I knew anything about, uh, and but basically had all the features that I'd been wanting to put in it over the years. So I felt like I was pretty complete at that point, and I was ready to retire and watch it fade into the sunset. Until Ben came along and decided to, that it was possible to keep it going with a new face on it. So,
Are
yeah,
are
I'm probably.
there
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, I mean, a lot of the fans of the game have pitched some crazy ideas, like, taking over the Fed or manipulating currencies. I don't know if maybe you don't want to do this, but I don't know if you can give us a hint of any sort of feature that you would be interested in implementing in the future.
I've gotten tons of crazy, wild suggestions like that over the years, like making it more like Dungeons and Dragons, role play and things like that, which I guess somebody could possibly find a way to do. To me, that would be kind of a departure from the kind of hard financial game it was intended to be. That was the basic idea being to try and make it as realistic as possible, but still fun to play and with a
Yeah, it
lot of
makes
humor
sense.
built in. So I'm probably not going to be embarking on any major changes. It but Ben will probably come to me with ideas for something that can be improved that I could work on, and which I'll definitely be glad to do. I definitely enjoy writing code, primitive though it is. It's pretty much pure logic. That was what I loved about BASIC when I learned it. That's the only computer language I've
Yeah.
ever learned, and so much of it is just pure logic. You don't really have to know much about software engineering to use it. So that's the only reason I was ever able to do this.
Yeah, it's funny because, I really don't think you're ever gonna be able to take your hands off it because every little thing I tell you is like where there's this one guy, Maller, he has a lot of opinions about the game, but they're really good opinions, and, he's really obsessed with the game, and a lot of the ideas for improvements and bugs he's found that nobody else was able to find, and, but one of the things he kept asking for was, "I want a cash flow statement for banks." He kept hammering it, he wouldn't let it go. He said, "I want a cash flow statement for banks." And I was like, how would that even work? Because the deposits are always changing. It's like, how do you even predict that? You start Googling real life. How do banks manage that? And it's like, well, they usually manage cost. And then, I'm messaging Michael, like, is this even a thing? And Michael's like, I don't think that's a very good idea. I'm not sure how useful that report would be. And it would be really hard to do. And it wouldn't even be very useful. And I was like, okay, it was kind of dead in the water. I was like, whatever. No cash flow projection for banks. Then 2 days later, I get an email from Michael going, "So I think I figured out how to do cash flow statements for banks, and I've been working on this code." And I'm like, so it's kind of this thing where once I mean, I've gotten the same way where every time I get to the point where I'm like, man, I'm kind of burnt out on this. I've been working on it for so long. And then you just get an idea or you get an epiphany and you're like, well, I have to sit down and code it. I Because otherwise I'm gonna forget it or I just see it in my head, I just gotta build it. So um but yeah.
My bank just passed $100 billion in market cap, so I
Nice.
also noticed there's no cash flow statement for banks, so I'm waiting for that one too.
It'll be in
Um,
there. I'm still not sure it's very useful, but if people want it, by golly, might as well give it to them.
Well, it's like crypto too, where it was like, well, don't really add crypto because it's. And then he's like, "All right, I'll add it." And it's like, not sure how useful it is, but it's basically kind of it's a commodity. So, well, a very sporadic, much more random commodity, but a commodity. So, but yeah. Sometimes I feel like people just want stuff in the game because it's just makes it feel more realistic. It's like, it's even got crypto, it's even got oil commodity, it's got everything. And it's like, how good of an investment it is it advisable to invest in that, is a different question. But just the fact that it's there, it's like, Well, I could invest in it if I wanted to. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
people hammered away at me for several years. Like, why don't you have crypto in it? And I'm just like, But anyway, I said, okay, I'll do it. So I said, I'll not only do it, but I'll put it in and I'll have futures as well. And in my other game, Speculator, it even created a couple of ETFs that for Ethereum and for Bitcoin. So
yeah.
yeah, so
So
Oh,
I
I,
want to
people
I,
are
ask you
I
constantly
guys.
eventually gave
asking me
in.
about Speculator. It's like relentless. They're like, "Where? What about Speculator?" I'm like, "Dude, I've never even played Speculator." But what I think I'll have to play it. Michael, you have to send me a copy of it or something. I'll have to play it because people, it's like, well, it's only 20% of the sales. But it's like there's so many people that just relentlessly asking about, oh, is Speculator going to be a game mode? And I'm thinking, what is it about Speculator? But in Speculator, it's kind of like you have to build up and unlock like financial instruments, right? Like you start with a little bit of money and you got to build up, and then over, if you reach a certain amount, then you kind of unlock an instrument, right?
Right. Your broker won't let you do things like sell short
Yeah.
or buy on margin or anything at first. So as you hit various benchmarks, you get approved, which is a lot like the real world. Like it took me a while when I first started trading options to get my broker to say, okay, you've been doing this for 20 years, I guess. So I guess what we can let you do it in this account too. So
Yeah. I,
So
so,
I
so
think
that's
that's
kind of how
probably
speculator
why
works.
people like it. They probably like it, and I kind of see it from make a game design standpoint as like a tech tree or like an unlockable sort of thing. I think people like that progression. So that's something I've thought about looking into, of how could, instead of just letting you use any instrument, kind of forcing you to master all the instruments by making it unlockable, starting with the simpler instruments, and then over time you get to use um, different ones that are more complicated, riskier, but higher payoff. So I'm not sure we need to implement Speculator fully, if not just kind of build in that progression and make it optional. I'm always being told to, even in something like music, I'm like, I'm going to add music to the game. I nearly get 100 people saying, no, if you add music, you better make sure I can turn it off. I'm like, whoa, okay. Like,
Okay.
all
yeah.
right. And it's like anything you add. Oh, half the people are like, I want Speculator in there. I want it to be a more progression, unlock things. And then the other half of, well, you better make sure I can turn that crap off. Like, it's I love it though, because it's like so opinionated. People love their flavor of the game. And they're like, you better not make it to where I can't play the game the way I like to play it anymore. So
So
pretty
speaking
fun.
of playing the game the way I like to play it, this is where I want to pick your guys' brains as the creators in one way or another of this game. I find myself falling into the same strategy and tactics every time for me to make money. And I want to break out of that, but I'm very set in my ways. I found a way that I feel works very well to make a ton of money. And the way that I play the game is this. I will always start with the lowest amount of money possible because I love the rags to riches story. So I get a small inheritance of $100 million from my grandfather or whatever. And then I start to speculate in futures, and particularly oil futures. And I'm either short selling or buying futures, corn or wheat. I don't really touch the other ones very much. I guess silver is okay in the beginning, but there's such low, like the game will let you buy such a small amount of silver futures that I find that after a little bit, I can't really make a bunch of money. Then I just basically, I know kind of how much in the game world generally. I mean, I've been wrong before and been totally wiped out, but I know generally how much wheat and corn and oil are supposed to cost. So if I see corn go over a certain threshold, I will short sell futures, and then I just wait for it to swing down, and then I sell whenever I can. And then I do the opposite. Once, wheat is very low, I will buy futures, and then I'll sell it at the top. And this works this to me has worked very well, but I'm stuck in that mode. I did this for 5 hours today. I literally watched number go down threshold, I buy, number go up threshold, I sell, and then vice versa. I want to know you guys, Michael, how do you play the game? What is your strategy? Do you have one? Do you have many? Please enlighten us as the game's creator.
I use a lot of different strategies, but generally trying to find kind of out of favor companies that are selling real cheap and that have have a good balance sheet, and take those over, try and build them up to where they're starting to generate really nice earnings and the PE ratio goes up. And if I can get them up to a high PE ratio, then I start using the stock to acquire uh, some of their competitors, or just even companies in other industries that are cheap. And you get this interesting effect, which is a real world thing, where you do, where you combine the accounting of two companies in a merger. And if the acquiring company has a really high PE ratio and it buys stock in a company with a low PE ratio, you put those two together, and the net effect per share, assuming they keep earning just the same amount they were earning, the net per share goes up for the stock of the surviving company. That's just the way the accounting works in the real world. In fact, that was really big back in the 1960s. Companies like Gulf and Western, these conglomerates were doing that. They got real popular, and people ran the stocks up, and they said, "Oh, great, we'll just acquire all of these kind of boring companies that are selling at 6 times, 8 times earnings when we're selling at 20." And every time they would do that, their net earnings would go up automatically if they could keep those companies from falling apart. Most of them mismanaged the companies they took over, so in the long run, it didn't work out. But it's an interesting short-term tactic. But that's one way of trying to take control of an industry too, where you can get to where you really keep close to 50% market share, so you're not getting hammered by antitrust suits, but yet you can cut back your growth rate and boost the profitability of the whole industry when you slow down your growth rate and let demand catch up with supply.
So what's your stock screener? When you're searching in the game, what do you use as the metrics to find these companies?
I use the database search thing. It's real handy for looking for like low PE companies. It'll have certain characteristics, like an industry that's improving and has a high analyst rating. So I'll sort of build in several factors like that and look for a good target that seems to be favorably priced. And the algorithms are inefficient enough that, like the real world, there are bargains to be had, and there are stocks that are definitely overpriced, but they may stay overpriced for quite a while, or stay underpriced, as the case may be. So
And Ben, do you have any favorite strategy? Maybe you know of some of the legendary players of this game that have, been testing out the beta. Do you know of any interesting strategies in this game?
Like I said, I'm terrible at playing the game. I've literally spent 99% of my game coding it. I probably know the engine very well, but in the rules and things, but in terms of actually playing the game, I mean, I probably don't. I really don't have a lot of it's pretty crazy. I don't have a lot of experience playing the actual game. I mean, I've played it before, but like for example, banks. Like I don't know how to run a bank in the game, which is crazy. But yeah, I don't. So I'm really just going off of the pulse of the community when they ask me for something and they say, like what was it recently? Oh, they said, "Oh, insurance companies, you forgot to add the button to where I could buy subprime mortgages or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So then I go look, I'm like, "Yeah, I did forget that button." It's because I didn't know that button was there because I have never used it, I've never seen it. So I'm really just at the service of the community. My game is really just the coding and the marketing and um but yeah, I really want to sit down at some point and play the game and actually get good at it. But for now, I'm just at the mercy of people telling me what the game needs to be at this point. Like I have a vision for it, but I'm really just kind of a curator of all their ideas and things. And so it's really went beyond whatever I imagined it was going to be.
You know,
Hmm.
one of the really funny things here is that even though I know every line of code in this game, and I've worked on it for 40 years, I don't play it nearly as well as a lot of the players out there. I get people all the time that like they'll tell me, "Hey, I've I just got up to like, you know, 300 quadrillion or something in only 2 years of play." And I'm like, how in the world do they do this? I can't do that.
Yeah.
But apparently, people are so darn smart. I mean, that's one thing I've learned over the years. It's been like I, I I've kind of been playing chess against the world because I would put out a new version and I'd have a new feature in it, and boy, sure as hell, before long somebody would tell me, "Man, I found how to just make trillions of dollars overnight with that new feature." And so, uh-oh. I have to fix that. That's too
Hmm.
easy. So I was constantly, I felt at times like the IRS plugging loopholes and say, can't have these kind of loopholes. That's too easy. So,
I think Mark Clipnot, he's probably the worst one, at least in the
oh, yeah,
past of doing that of and then posting a video about it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
what
he
can you
would kind of get
explain what he
angry at
did?
me. Huh?
Or like, for example, bond cancellation, which honestly, I don't entirely understand how it works. What he did, and it doesn't really work anymore. It still kind of works, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Michael would probably be
I had to
better.
do a lot of tweaking to, so you can still do that, but for a while it was just open season, and he was doing it in his videos with spreadsheets and everything, and he would just go down the line, one company after another, take it over,
Yeah.
recapitalize it, and just make it easy money, too easy. So,
Yeah, one thing I'll say is like you're saying, okay, I'm sure people are wondering, like, so I made this whole game and then I released it for playtesting, and then there was all these bugs and stuff. And um, it's funny because somebody, I hate to highlight negativity, but somebody on Steam posted, or I think it was on Reddit. They were really mad because of all the bugs and things and lagginess and stuff. And the last thing they said was, it's like you didn't even play the game. It's like you didn't even test it yourself. And I was thinking about, I was like, I kind of didn't. I kind of didn't. It's like, why do you think I just released it out into the world and let thousands of people play it? Because it's so complex and I barely understand how it works anyway. And I did just get flooded with bug reports and suggestions, and then I schedule those bug fixes and I work on it, and that was a lot faster than I would have never found those bugs. There's no way. Me playing the game, trying to test it, and it was would have been a complete waste of time. It was way faster to just, and it was kind of mutual, which they got to play the game, and then I got the free testing. I mean, I probably gotten so many hours of man hours of testing for free just by letting them play the game for free. So, and my hope is that when I claw back that play test and open it and you have to pay to play it, that they will go pay for it still. They won't be
They
bored with it
will.
yet. They will have played for hundreds of hours and they're still going to give Michael and I $30. That's what my bet is.
I think they will. I think they will. I mean, having just, come out of the matrix of 5, 6 hours of playing myself, like this is a game that I've played for dozens of hours in the old version too, right? So like, and I came back and I want to keep going back. And I think it's the kind of game, because Michael and you have created this world, it's a game that you can just step into and lose yourself for hours. Like it's actually a little bit kind of scary. Um,
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Before you go into the next, whatever the next part is, um, So somebody had originally told me you need to add um, the real time, the local time into, like, if it's 4 o'clock for you in real life, then it should show 4 o'clock in the game. So I added that. But the problem I noticed is that people kept telling me that the game was slow, the game was laggy. And I realized it's because not every tick, not every update does, let's say, a news headline show up. So I saw a major gap in terms of user feedback from the game to tell the user, hey, I'm running, I'm working. So after I just fixed that lag issue for my performance update patch, I thought, well, and I haven't even told Michael about this. I really haven't been communicating with the community or Michael very much, as I'm just drowning in suggestions and bug fixes. I realized that it every day in the game is a certain number of ticks. It's between like 16 and 17 ticks is a day. And I thought, well, a market is open. The markets are open, well, at least in the US, between 9:30 and 4, I think. So I said, I'll just take 9:30 to 4, divide it by 16, 17, and then every tick. And so now the time in the game updates. So you can see market opens and it's every tick, it moves that time up, whatever fraction or number of minutes that is. And you can see it's like everybody's saying it's laggy. Well, it ain't laggy now because it's like the time is moving so fast if you have it on full throttle. Um, but the problem with that is that if I ever do really implement full screen where your Windows clock is hidden, that might be bad for people because they're going to totally lose track of time now because the time in real life is no longer in the game.
Yeah. Well, that's the danger. I mean, you guys have created a product that's just too good. I guess that's the problem. Um, Michael, I want to talk about the legacy of Wall Street Raider. What do you hope that people will remember about this game? Will remember about you, if at all, if anything?
Um, I hope people will just be grateful, and the main legacy, other than than the hours of enjoyment, will be that they actually get something from it, that either that it helps them to manage their own finances better or do their own real investing better, or could even lead to a career in finance. Yeah, basically, as I was saying earlier, I've had so many people tell me that, as a kid, they were not really sure what they were going to do when they grew up. They started playing the game and they really got hooked on the whole idea of being in finance and turned that into a career that, you know, turned into a very, very good thing for them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not Ben Graham, but I actually had a really interesting email from a young guy who runs a very successful hedge fund, and he said he had played the game for years, and he had noticed that buying cheap companies with low PE ratios and turning them around seemed to be a very profitable thing in the game, but he wasn't doing it with his clients and with the funds that he was managing, and he wasn't doing that well. So finally, he decided to just start doing what he'd been doing in Wall Street Raider. And well, once he started doing that, he sent me this audited report from I think from Price Waterhouse. They had audited a section, like a 10-year period of his trading, where he had averaged a 44% compounded rate of return, signed and dated by the partner at Price Waterhouse, and he said that was because he found out that seemed to work in Wall Street Raiders, and so he would try it in real life, and by golly, that change in strategy made all the difference. So yeah, I hope there are a lot of people out there who they may not know who I am or anything, which is fine, but if they get a lot of chuckles when some strange scenario pops up, and they find it totally appropriate and funny. That's also a real positive. Just uh, just to make people laugh. Laughter's good for you.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I I think that this game does such a great job at demystifying a lot of um actions that you can take in the financial world, and it makes it so that maybe looking at a company's balance sheet is not such a scary thing, or looking at their earnings is not such a it demystifies all that, and it kind of makes it a low stakes playground. Like, even if I do get wiped out, $100 million because the price of gold went down like 2%, hey, I learned something, and I don't have to like sell my house or whatever. um I think it's great for that. Ben, I asked you a version of this question in the last interview, but now that we're getting closer to the release of the game, um, having heard all the feedback from everyone, and kind of seeing this become very real with people enjoying themselves, people playing, spending time with this thing that you've worked for 2 years now on, um, as the steward of the Wall Street Raider legacy, what kind of responsibility do you now feel?
I mean, yeah, I don't know, responsibility. I mean, yeah, I think in the last interview I said that I don't try not to think about it. Didn't I say that last time?
I think so, yeah.
It's just pretty scary. It's a pretty scary thing, because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and which has kind of made it hard for me to succeed a lot in, let's say, the business world or whatever. You can't be a perfectionist. You have to be good enough. You have to keep failing forward, and failure is the way to success. And I'm very much a like when I play Wall Street Raider, which is probably why I'm not very good at it, is because I'm like trying to read all the manual, thinking that's going to make me better, or let's say, reading all the code. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I originally thought, wow, he's giving me the code. I'm going to be really good at this game because I know I can read the code now. I know the engine, how the engine works. Nope. It's all about practice and experience. And so in terms of like
Plus, it
responsibility,
all
I
it all
mean,
kind of
so
comes
I guess what
together
I would
too.
say is I've got it to the point now where it's kind of out of my hands. I mean, I'm accountable. If it's a total disaster, I'm kind of the scapegoat for that. But I think it's at the point where it can't really it can't really fail. I think that's a lesson to learn in business is that it, business only if a business isn't growing, it's dying. So you have to keep growing. You have to keep improving the product. As long as you do that and you don't run out of money, which I don't have that issue because it's not my full-time job. So like Michael said, don't waste hundreds of thousands of dollars on it. And I haven't. I probably actually spent a couple $1,000 actually on art and things, which seems like a lot, but I really take importance of how it looks, how it's presentable, and like the Steam graphics. I paid for those, a professional to make those, and I didn't skimp on that. And like we're gonna have achievements in the game, and I didn't skimp on those graphics for those achievements. We're gonna have probably the best achievements graphics on Steam
Yes.
because I was looking at a lot of those and they're pretty crappy. They're like really crappy um, thumbnails for the achievements. But anyway, but yeah, I'm kind of avoiding your question of how do I feel about the responsibility. I don't know. I mean, so one of the reasons why I wanted to put it on Steam is that let's say a freak accident happens and Michael and I both get hit by a bus. Let's say that happens. Wall Street Raider will still live on. So long as Steam does not take the game down, take the page down, which I don't think they will if they're making sales and things, it will go on forever. It doesn't really depend on Michael and me anymore. So, but as long as I'm alive, as long as Michael's alive, we can work on it, we can improve it. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really feel when you first asked me that question, I felt kind of this big weight of like, because at that point in time, I didn't know if it was even going to be possible, and I would have felt really bad if it wasn't gonna. But I feel like we kind of made it there. Like it's not in the best shape it could be, could still be improved, but I feel like we've done it. We haven't achieved the numbers we want with people playing the game or people who know about the game, and we haven't sold any copies of the game yet, but I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job. I feel like I'm ready to give myself a pat on the back and say I think I'm doing an okay job. So I couldn't say that last time, but I think I can say that now.
I think
Yeah,
it's safe to say that. Michael, you're going to say something?
just to add to that, yeah, I haven't tried to put any pressure on Ben or make him feel like, oh, you gotta succeed at this. Or I won't be able to pay my rent anymore or anything like that.
Yeah.
I, I mean, I'm well set financially. Fortunately, I've invested well over the years, and so if this goes and Ben is able to really take it to new heights, I'm enthused about it. But if it finally turns out that it's just not going to go anywhere, well, that's it. It's been fun doing it all these years, and so I don't really feel like if there's any pressure on Ben, it's probably from all the people who are wanting him to finish this and
It is.
make this great game. Make my old jalopy look like a Ferrari. So
Yeah, I will say that makes me think of something. I've had a weird sense of purpose from working on this, which I didn't originally think was going to happen. Like originally it was just a challenge of because I think in the last interview I talked about like porting like Colossal Cave Adventure to the Pico 8. Like it was Fortran code. I moved it to a modern programming language and people were able to play it on like a weird platform, and like it was kind of a technical challenge. And originally this was just a really big technical challenge. And I thought it was probably a tenth or less of the difficulty that it ended up being. I mean, it ended up being, and it's been the most difficult technical challenge I've ever done in my
well,
professional or personal life. Um, just because of the number of problems and technical things that I had to solve, the number of things I had to learn and read about, not just the programming, but the finance aspect of it. And, but I've gotten the sense of purpose because of, I think, the economic mobility that the game has the ability to impact people's ability to um, make money in real life. I mean, I think it's pretty honest to say we can go ahead and say, like, this game, like Michael was saying, that trader, he took strategies directly that he learned from the game and applied it in real life and got way above average returns. Now, granted, that may not work all the time, but um, if that isn't testament that the game is realistic, that you can learn real life things from the game, I don't know what is. If the 200 CEOs and investment bankers and whatnot that got into the career and all that transfer knowledge into their success in real life, if that isn't testament to the realism and the real life value, educational value of the game, then I don't know what is. So to me, that is a huge moral responsibility. Um, like he's saying, people in poorer countries taking this game and, totally changing their economic mobility. To me, it's a huge moral purpose to make sure that this thing gets to as many people as possible. And if after all the splits and fees and the IRS takes something away and I make a couple bucks per copy, I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter at all. It really doesn't matter at all. If you know, the only thing that matters is my main metric is the original simulation preserved? Is it presentable to a modern audience to where people who otherwise wouldn't play the game will now play the game because it looks different now? Um, and I want to get those messages. Like I want 10 years from
well,
now to hear somebody message me and say, you know, I was 13 years old and I found this game on Steam. I started playing it and now I'm a CEO. Now I'm an investment banker. Totally changed my life. And it's, you know, it's really up there in terms of meaning of life because I feel like as a child, you know, if any of us all as a teenager went through maybe the philosophical phase of what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? What's my purpose? You know, where do I derive meaning from? And it's like I've gotten most of that in recent times from my family being married and having children. But then I would say pretty up there is now Wall Street Raider of this vision, this potential to where I can't, like you were saying before, like I know I'm going on and on, but I'll wrap it up here. Basically, you were asking me before, like what made it to where I couldn't let this thing die. I think it's because I saw the testimonials page. I've read every single testimonial on that testimonials page that's on the Wall Street Raider website. And I just went down that. And once I read that page, I was like, there's no way. There's no way I can let this just become abandonware. Like, uh, even if even if Michael never gave me the source code, it would have taken me a lot longer. But I probably would have did something illegal. I probably would have like reverse engineered the game and like looked at the assembly code of the game and like how they did Roller Coaster Tycoon and they did RCT and they like reverse engineered the assembly code to where because it wasn't working on modern systems or there are certain bugs wrong with it. But that was like 200 people. So I was like, I probably would have did something like that and like open WSR or whatever and tried to get a bunch of software engineers to like reverse engineer the game and get, but thankfully Michael just gave me the source code and that saved me a whole bunch of time. But yeah, I had plans in my head of like, if he doesn't give me the code, um, then I'm probably going to do something I probably shouldn't do and try and save this on my own, or even just make sure that it can always run on the next operating system or whatever. But yeah, there's a huge sense of responsibility. There's a huge moral purpose in terms of keeping this thing alive and letting it continue to impact people, not just from a entertainment standpoint, from an educational and economic standpoint.
Just one word of warning: it will take over your life.
It already has. It already has. I'm like, I can't escape
No,
from it now. Like,
I mean,
I thought the other day, I was like, I could just turn the Discord server off and turn the Steam page off, and I don't have to worry about any of this anymore. Nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows how to contact me. I could just disappear. I don't have to do this anymore. I'm like, obviously, I would never do that, but I'm like, yeah, it's totally like even it just I feel this pressure from the community to like they're like, when's the next update? When you think there's like this silence, but the silence is deafening of literally thousands of people watching me going, all right, what's next? When's it gonna be released? When are you gonna fix that bug? Because my strategy entirely depends on this thing and it's not working and I'm really mad at you right now. And that's pressure to go. I need to, sorry, Kara, my wife, I got to stay up tonight. So we'll watch Jeopardy and then I got to spend a couple hours. Maybe I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning. I got to fix this bug because, you know, whatever his name is on Discord, he's mad and he's like, he needs this bug fixed because for some reason his entire strategy depends on this one thing. So he's not going to give Michael and I $30 unless he has this thing. Maller, the guy I was talking about before, he's one of the biggest pressures for me, which is a good pressure of perfectionism. It really plays on my perfectionism and my desire to be the best and do the best job I can. And he's constantly telling me, if you don't fix that, I'm not buying the game. And sometimes I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like it's like the stages of grief. I'm like sadness, anger. I'm like, I don't care. I don't need your $30. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry, Balor. Took this perfect game and I ruined it for you. Like, I'm going to make it up to you. Like, so all kinds of emotions. But anyway.
yeah, you find you do eventually give in to those pressures. You'll get some really insistent person, and you'll
Yeah.
think, "Oh, that's a crazy idea." Like a couple of years ago, one guy said, I love the game, but I hate these darn antitrust suits. Every time I'm trying to take over an industry, I just get hammered with all these antitrust lawsuits and from the government and everything else." So I said, couldn't I, why can't I just turn that off? So I finally gave in. So now there's a feature in it where you can either turn off the private antitrust suits or the government ones, or turn them both off if you want to. And then it becomes like the robber baron days where there's no
Yeah.
limits on monopolies or anything. And you can, if you're good, you can acquire, build up 100% of an industry and just be incredibly profitable now. But yeah, just giving people what they want, and what they need to play the game well.
Yeah, I think that the cheats thing is big with that of like it's like a sandbox. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you can cheat, whatever, but um, like Trimbark Tree was asking me, he's like, you need to make it where it's easier for me to load a previous game. So I can basically save scum. So I don't know, Michael, you don't know this term. Save scumming is where, let's say, oil futures in the game or any kind of game where it's a random probability to get a reward. So you just keep doing that and you'll lose, but you'll just reload your previous save and try again. And then a lot of people play the game that way, and they find entertainment out of that. So I think it's this thing of like not letting people play the game however they want. I know The Sims did this a lot with like the cheat codes, infinite money or whatever, and it's like I kind of want to do that in Wall Street Raider. It's like whatever, if you want infinite money, and then you can just explore all aspects of the game, and there's, you don't have to build up, and you can just buy whatever company you want and play around right at the start of the game. But we haven't really talked about it, but that's one of the big reasons why I'm doing the modding thing. Like we didn't really go into like the technical challenges of like the user interface and stuff, but essentially every decision I've made for the user interface has been so that at some point, when it gets big enough, hopefully once it hits that threshold, there will be a lot of technical people coming in who like to mod games, and they will come in and I want to give them the freedom to do what they want. So like Wall Street Raider engine obviously is not open source, but the new user interface is. It's totally
I
just
think
text
we
files.
lost
It's
Ben. Did you
website.
lose him, Michael?
Oh, oh, hello. Can you
Can
hear
you
me?
say that one more time, just that last part?
Um, Basically the new user interface is um totally open source. It's all just text files. So if somebody really wanted to go in there and write a completely different user interface, as because it's just a website, it's basically using Electron, which is a web browser pretending to be a desktop application. And it's just a website that is, and I have a web server, a website server that's running in between the old engine and the new user interface. So it's just a website running on your local computer, and it's hitting this website, which is interfacing, talking to the old engine. And that's how it works. That's where a lot of the lag came from, but I've solved a lot of that. Um, but like you could right now, it's just running on a port, like that web server is running on a port. So you could right now write an AI or a bot, like a trading bot. One of the biggest things I want is for people in the quant field to be able to build a trading bot to where they could interface with the engine directly without the user interface. And anything you can do in the user interface, you can do through programmatically by writing, let's say, a Python program and getting all the reports, reading all the reports, clicking any of the buttons. It can all be done programmatically. So I, I'm really hoping that like the AI and the quant people take this on and like do that. And just the modability of I want to be able to for people to save custom information to a save to where they can not only um, change the whole user interface, but then they can save their own custom information to the game. And I feel like just from that, you could build in a lot of logic of mods into the user interface just without even needing the back part of it. And there's all kinds of things that I've imagined that would probably be possible that people could do. I've imagined scenarios because people could do like that I want to really improve this game save aspect of it, ability to load a save of a game. And like I remember when I was a kid, I used to play Minecraft. There used to be these adventure maps where people would build these game saves and kind of set it up towards like a scenario, and then you just load that game and then you're in that scenario. I totally think that's possible with Wall Street Raider, and so I want to build tools to like edit the game save and be able to do that. Where like in Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you, all right, here's the landscape, now build a theme park. Like I want to do that with Wall Street Raider. Like here's where it is, and then oh by the way, these options are disabled. You're not allowed to do these, but you have these new options you can do. And I really want it to be where like there's this, it's like we've talked about Football Manager before. There's like this base game that's like the heart of it all. And then I want people to be able to take that, and I want all kinds of people of investment bankers and traders and everybody to get together and like build different types of flavors of the game on top of that to just really like make it to where this thing is never going to go away. It's just going to have a huge community and be able to serve all kinds of interests and ways of playing.
Well, I think few games stay relevant for 4 decades, and it sounds that in your hands, Ben, this game could stay relevant for another 4 decades,
I
based on
hope
the
so.
work that Michael has put in, the work that you are putting in right now. I love the game. I've always loved the game. I like it now that there's an amazing user interface that we can see the graphs, and I can click on links, and I can get to places faster and implement the strategies that I would like to implement myself. It's fantastic. It's so easy to lose yourself in this new version, and I am very excited to keep on playing it, to see the updates that come out. I know, my question about the pressure. Ben, I think you are doing a fantastic job. Having played the game for what felt like 10 minutes, but was actually 5 hours today, I think it's working. Everything that you're doing is working based on, the 40 years of effort that Michael put in. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for speaking to me for our publication Outsider Gaming. For those of you who are still listening, please like and subscribe this video. Leave a comment. It really helps us increase visibility. Share this interview with your friends, and I look forward to hearing the stories of your rating. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it, AJ.